Yeah, at the beginning of each end step, a slime counter goes on everything, so we end up with 10 slug tokens here. This gameplay video is brought to you by very generous patron Shuffles. Carrying on with the Crimson Vow decks, this time bringing you Toxrill the Corrosive, up against Brago, Dina Soul Steeper, and Rin and Seri. Haven't seen that one in a while. Really good hand for us. We should be getting into our commander fairly quickly if we carry on making lands there, so we will keep, hopefully get into some more lands and ramp. We start the game off as well, getting to another land in Fetid Pools on our turn 1, so we'll drop the Soul Ring and the Talisman here. And we see a turn 1 play from Rin and Seri as well, Squirrel Sanctuary. And a Ravenous Squirrel, so yeah, a couple of squirrels in a row here, and fine with me seeing these 1/1s in a Toxrill deck. And then a Meat Hut Massacre drawn into on turn 2, so we'll just get down the tap line in Fetid Pools, and we can go for this a Crow and Horse here. Start getting a bunch of 1/1 soldiers bouncing around all over the field. Hand the Crow and Horse over to the Brago player. The Squirrel token swinging in towards us. Worried about us accelerating our mana too much, I dare say. Dina Soul Steeper, the first commander of the game to enter play. And the Squirrel comes in towards us on this side of the field as well. So at the beginning of Brago's turn, we all get soldier tokens, going for a Felwar Stone of their own. Okay, sudden spoiling will be good for later on as well. Turn all of our opponent's creatures into 0/2s with a bunch of slug tokens on there. So let's go for the Hunted Phantasm, playing into a board wipe here, but I don't think our opponents are necessarily all that bothered about a board wipe. Maybe Brago will be. We'll play into it anyway because we want to get our commander down next turn. So the Hunted Phantasm comes down. We'll give the Goblin tokens over to the Brago player to help dissuade them from wiping the board there. We'll go for Watery Grave in tapped. Squirrel Nest, so looking to make a bunch of 1/1s over here, which is quite strange actually that they seem to be so concentrated on squirrels. Haven't seen any cats or dogs from Rin and Seri yet, but the more 1/1s they want to make, the better it is for us. Blood Researcher from Strixhaven, a 2/2 with Menace. When you gain life, put a plus counter on it. And then it's around to Brago again. We each get a soldier token. Azorius Signet from Brago. Still 6 cards in hand and a Genesis Chamber. Well, this is pretty much a dream matchup for us, as long as we can have our commander stick. So yeah, a bunch of goblins coming in towards us. We'll block a little bit of this damage. I don't think it really matters if Toxrill doesn't really see one of the goblins die. Would be nice to get the Meat Hut Massacre into play before the Toxrill, but yeah, we could play that for 2 mana, but we still won't be equipping the Darksteel Plate, so yeah, we'll just risk the Toxrill at this point, I think. So Toxrill coming down into play, and that triggers the Genesis Chamber from the Brago player. So we get a Mir token as well. And now we need to hope that Rin and Seri does not have a removal spell during the upkeep here. Yeah, at the beginning of each end step, a slime counter goes on everything, so we end up with 10 slug tokens here. Rin and Seri just decided to pass through the turn there, so we got rid of another creature, making another slug token. Like I said, this triggers during every end step. Nothing to actually do with all these tokens yet, so our opponents don't necessarily need to worry yet. Lampad of Death's Veil, which is a sack outlet and drains, so yeah, not really too worried about that one. Genesis Chamber gonna really help us out. And deciding to sacrifice the Dina, Toxrill sees that die with the slug counter on it, so we get another slug token, draining each of us for 1. And there is the Mir token. Missing out on a land drop here, seemingly. So we get to the end step. It is slug counters on everything, so that Mir token goes down immediately. Would be really good to get into our own Genesis Chamber. I do wonder why Brago actually played this. It seems to have fed into our hand much more than it's going to feed into theirs. Anyway, we all get some more soldier tokens at the beginning of Brago's turn. That will spell the end of the Crow and Horse at the end of this turn though, but I think it's safe to say that it's served its purpose for us. Alright, there's Detention Sphere. They could take all the slugs away from us here, but I dare say they aim for Toxrill instead. So that would have got past the Darksteel Plate anyway. Yeah, going after the Toxrill, it's not likely that we're going to be able to get rid of the Detention Sphere, so we'll have to send it back to the command zone, unfortunately. It was always a risk to run out Toxrill without any counter magic or protection of any kind. Ended up with a bunch of slugs though that we can start whacking our opponents with. I think I'll start concentrating on Brago. And we get to keep the Crowan Horse in play as well here, because the minus effects do go once the Toxrill leaves play, so the slug counters stay on of course, but the debuff disappears once the commander does. So we're going to keep getting soldier tokens. A Dawnbringer Cleric from the previous block. You can gain 2 life, destroy an enchantment, or exile a card from a graveyard. So that triggers the Genesis Chamber, and they just decide to gain 2 life with the Dawnbringer Cleric, so it's a typical ETB Brago list by the looks of it. And we get round to our turn without our commander, unfortunately. Okay, your Henny Undying Partisan is pretty good. Why don't we go for the Darksteel Plate, get that back into play, ready for when our commander comes back in. And then I think it's fairly safe to go for your Henny as well. Trigger the Genesis Chamber, get ourselves another Mir token. And then we're going to lose some slug creatures here, but I think it's okay to turn all the slugs in towards Brago. We'll turn your Henny in towards Brago as well. A Mountain making a Squirrel token. We'll take the Hunted Phantasm in down the middle. All the slugs can go in at Brago, the Henny can go in at Brago as well. And we'll hold back some blockers as well, I think. So, deciding to block with everything, I think your Henny gets a plus counter whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, so they're going to lose a Mir here, so we might as well buff the Henny. Your Henny being blocked by the Crowan Horse. We can sacrifice the slug before this deals combat damage to it, might as well put Indestructible on your Henny here. So damage dealt there, it was 4-2 the Golgari player, knocking Brago down to 30, and we'll see if Rin and Seri wants to do anything now that our commander has gone down. Rambunctious Mutt will blow something up, probably should be the Genesis Chamber. Alright, going for our Sol Ring instead, yeah that's a good idea as well to keep us off casting our commander again anytime soon. We are struggling on card draw here, was really hoping to get our commander into play and keep it there so that we could kill off some of these slugs for some card draw. Rune of Might going on to the black creature for Dina. And then throwing out an Eye Twitch as well, which gets them into another Mir token. Then Brago's turn again. A Crowan Horse gives us all some soldier tokens. Glad that I held on to the Meat Hut Massacre now, because we might have to wipe the board, unfortunately. That will make a really big Yahenni for us, though, if we decide to do that. Stonehorn Dignitary for Brago. Target opponent skips their combat phase. So I dare say that's pointed at us, and it is. Genesis Chamber gets a Mir again. Flooded Strand for us, so one step closer to getting our commander back out again. We want Expedition Map, Cabal Coffers, things like that at this point. Might as well put Darksteel Plate on the Hunted Phantasm and pass. Noteworthy that there is a Springjack Pasture for the Rin and Seri player over here. They just pass through combat, don't feel as though they can get through our token army here. Well, don't often see that one. A Charnel Troll. And they did get a Mir token with that, of course. Still able to play, even though they're struggling on mana over there, so that's really good. More soldier tokens from the Crowan Horse. And there we see Brago, King Eternal, so it's going to be really tricky if they continuously manage to hit us with that because of the Stonehorn Dignitary. That'll surely be game pointed at us. Then a Recruiter of the Guard as well, so able to search up a creature with toughness 2 or less. Only one card in hand left at least. Alright, a Swan Song. Yeah, I'm worried about this Brago at this point, so what we could do, what did they go for? They went for Tribute Mage with the Recruiter of the Guard, so an artifact with 2 or less tutored for when it enters. Sudden Spoiling could switch on the Meat Hut Massacre. That'd be 4, 5, 6 and 7, 2, 4 and 6. We are shy thanks to the Sol Ring going down. Alright, so in that case, we're going to have to hope that we can kill some creatures in combat, I think. And then we can tap out into Meat Hut Massacre and not lose our Yahenni, assuming that some of our opponent's creatures die. So we'll swing in with everything because we're going to lose these creatures anyway. I think we need to slow the game right down if we're not going to be able to get into our commander anytime soon, which it doesn't seem as though we're going to be able to. So just spreading the damage around all over the place and completely tapping out here. Obviously we can protect Yahenni by making it indestructible. So we're taking out at least one creature here. We want to take out 2 creatures so that we can get Yahenni's toughness above 4. And that way we'll be able to go Meat Hut Massacre and have that survive. Yeah, so trading in a load of soldiers here by the looks of it. Okay, so it looks like we're going to get rid of 5 creatures here, because it is 5/1/1s that are blocking, and the Crowan Horse just blocking a 1/1. Might as well sacrifice that and make Yeheni indestructible. It's a shame that we're not going to get the full benefits of the Meat Hut Massacre here, but it is going to do its job in acting as a board wipe. So the Eye Twitch dies. They get to learn there. They don't get to go for a sideboard in eedi-H, but they will get to, I think it's a loot with learn. Yeah, so discarding the Tend the Pests. And Yeheni gets a bunch of plus counters on it, which is exactly what we were aiming for. So that jumps up to an 8/8. We've got an indestructible 4/6. Now let's tap out for this Meat Hut Massacre. Hopefully there's no white counter magic from the Rin and Seri player. Alright, that lands, that's really good. So -4/-4 on all the creatures should wipe everything out apart from our 2 creatures. So the Meat Hut Massacre has them lose 1 life per creature they control that died. Unfortunately, while I'm clicking through all the triggers, it looks as though the Dina player is scooped. I mean, they're nowhere near losing here, so maybe they're not understanding what the Meat Hut Massacre actually does. Brago plummeting all the way down to 6 there, 27 for Rin and Seri. And the Yeheni ends up at a 21/21, not our commander, unfortunately. Otherwise that would be a one-shot commander hit on someone. It does have the -4/-4 debuff on it at the moment as well. Squirrel token being made by Rin and Seri, along with a goat token. They do still have to worry about the Meat Hut Massacre as the game continues. We've got rid of the Crowan Horse in that, unfortunately, all to blow up the Brago, as well as the other ETB stuff. We do at least have the Genesis Chamber over here, though. Nature's Law from Rin and Seri. 1/1 Squirrel comes in towards us while we're tapped out, and a Truffle Snout, that is plus counter or gain 4 life when it enters. So comes in with a Mere token, they do gain the 4 life, so go up to 31. We see the Tribute Mage from Brago, getting to search up a small artifact here. And it was Lightning Greaves that they went for, no doubt to protect their Brago and make it relevant as soon as it comes in next turn. So playing out the Lightning Greaves straight away. Just 1 card left in hand for Brago, holding up an island and a reflecting pool. So let's go straight through to combat here, drew into Arcane Signet for the turn. Turning sideways towards Brago. And they block with a Mere. Yeah, so going down to 2 during combat, and then the Meat Hut Massacre sees the Mere token die. So our opponent goes down to 2, surprisingly. We hit them with the Hunted Phantasm. Thought they'd block with both there. Yeah, if we could get a creature in play, we could sacrifice both of these to get Brago out of the game. Because Meat Hut Massacre, whenever a creature we control dies, our opponent loses 1 life. So we'll just go for the Arcane Signet here. I absolutely would sacrifice both creatures if we had enough to get rid of Brago, but we don't, unfortunately. Hold up the Swan Song and the Sudden Spoiling. Sudden Spoiling is going to be good to protect us from Brago, I think. Caribou range, enchant a land you control, and it can make a Caribou token for 2 and a tap. You can sacrifice 1 to gain a life. So I wonder if that's the theme of this deck. They've got land auras, and they make tokens with those. Anyway, continuing to turn in sideways at us, that's fine. Just 4 damage this time. There's Brago, King Eternal. We'll wait for them to turn in sideways with it, because it does need to make combat damage, I think. Yeah, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, so they'll no doubt put Lightning Greaves on there. We do have a Swan Song to counter any counter spells that they might have as well, unless it's a Dovin's Veto, which they might have in hand. Turning in sideways with the Tribute Mage as well, expecting to untap that. So we'll go Sudden Spoiling. Oh, and I forgot they can't counter it anyway, it has split seconds, so nothing they can do about this. Their creatures will lose all abilities and turn into 0/2s. And they just decide to scoop at that, so we were going wide on them next turn. Should have waited for us to do it though, because first off the Rin and Seri might be able to interfere, but also this does free up an attack phase for us, which isn't particularly fair on the Rin and Seri player. Okay, a Swamp. So we're currently 1 mana shy of our commander. Just carry on turning sideways in towards them, I think. They can make another Squirrel token to chump with, and they can make another Coat token as well, so they can chump us all day, basically. Need to get into Whisper Silk Cloak or something like that and hit them with Yeheni. Okay, so not blocking the Hunted Phantasm, I think that was. Yeah, they did lose some life, so left the Hunted Phantasm through. And yeah, we can see the 1 damage marker on the Yeheni, so obviously blocking the biggest creature. Now creating a Squirrel token from the mountain. Both in top deck mode apparently, both one card in hand, and our opponent has dropped a grasslands there. Might see our opponent's commander at this point. Yeah, there we go. We see the Rin and Seri. They turn, that is 5 damage in at us this time, so going down to 40. Back to our starting life total. Oh, I thought this cost 2, it costs 4 actually, so... yeah, actually can't afford to do that. They can make a squirrel token to chump block with still. But there is our swamp, so... It's the last card in their hand, a Swords to Plowshares or something. We'll go for our commander again. Could try and get into another land next turn so that we can hold up Swan Song to protect it, but while our opponent doesn't have many cards in hand, I think it's alright to go for Toxrill now. So turn everything in sideways again. And they're just blocking the 1, so a goat token gets thrown under your henny again. So they want to keep the squirrel token that they make at the end of the turn, seemingly. But they're not going to because Toxrill's in play. Probably should have made the squirrel token and blocked the hunted phantasm as well, because it's just going to give us more slug tokens if they make a squirrel here. Anyway, get through for a little bit more damage. Your henny now sitting at a 28-28. And it is our end step, so Toxrill triggers, and we'll clear out those squirrel tokens. I suppose they could make a squirrel now if they wanted to. But we'll get more counters on your henny. More Meat Hut Massacre triggers. That is gain a life because it's our creatures, our opponent's creatures that are dying. And obviously we'll get some slugs as well. Hopefully be able to draw some cards next turn. We've got some sack fodder for your henny as well to make that indestructible if we need to. Sacrificing the grasslands during the upkeep to strip them of more lands. Less chance of drawing into them if they're not in your deck, of course. And our opponent decides to scoop it up there, that's fair enough. Yeah, they obviously see the writing on the wall here. We are going to continue to whittle away at their creatures, so it doesn't really matter what they do. If they're very 1-1 token dependent, we just had a really good matchup here being up against a 1-1 tokens player. Next turn we start drawing with our slugs. We get into more mana with the Gilded Lotus. A little bit late to see that. We were struggling on mana through that game, but we're eventually going to get into stuff. The Blood Artist would have been absolutely relevant there. The Expedition map for Cabal Coffers would have been really good. So yeah, like I said, did struggle a little bit on mana. That's the main thing there. Maybe should shove more Reanimator in here so that we can get the Toxrill back easily enough if we are screwed on mana. But either way, we got to see the type of thing that we want to do with Toxrill, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did. You can consider donating on Patreon through the link in the description as well. That can get you video dedications as well as being in the credits. So a big thank you if you decide to do that. I'm tribalkai on the eedi-H channel. Thank you for watching.